Hey there, listeners. Before we dive into tonight's tale, drop a comment below telling us where you're tuning in from. Now, let's begin our journey into the shadows of the multiverse. The sterile hum of the Veil Nexus facility filled the air as I leaned over the holographic display, my fingers tracing the ethereal lines of dimensional coordinates. My name is Dr. Alina Voss, and for the past 8 years, I've danced on the razor's edge of reality, probing worlds that mirror our own in ways both familiar and terrifying. Veil Nexus, buried deep beneath the Bavarian Alps, is a black-budget program shrouded in layers of international secrecy. Governments deny its existence, but we know better. We're the ones who peek through the veil. These readings are anomalous, I muttered, more to myself than to director Klaus Reinhardt, who stood across the console with his arms crossed, his sharp eyes piercing through the dim blue glow of the screens. Earth 413 registers 99.1% congruence with our timeline, technology, geopolitics, even cultural milestones. But there's a divergent spike here, around 2020. Reinhardt's voice was gravelly, laced with the weight of too many classified ops. Verified 5 times, Alina. It's stable enough for insertion. Standard protocol. Observe, record, extract. No interference. Guten Tag to Protocol Supreme. That phrase hung in the air like a noose. Protocol Supreme was our Bible. No altering timelines. No contact with natives. Nothing that could ripple back to our world. I'd followed it on a dozen jumps, from dystopian wastelands to utopian paradises. But something about 413 felt off, like a shadow lurking just beyond the data. I shuffled through the orbital scans again. London sprawled out in familiar chaos, Thames snaking through, Big Ben's silhouette intact. But anomalies dotted the landscape. Colossal spires, not the Shard or Gherkin, but twisted obelisks that screamed defiance. Monuments, weapons. The imagery was too grainy to tell. When do I jump? I asked, already feeling the adrenaline coiling in my gut. 2200 hours, 3-day window max. Keep the chronovox secure, it's your lifeline home. I nodded, pocketing the device, a sleek palm-sized artifact that pulsed with quantum energy, no bigger than a vintage pocket watch. As I turned to leave, Reinhardt called after me. Alina, remember Protocol Supreme. We're watchers, not gods. Always, I replied without looking back, but a knot twisted in my stomach. Watchers, that's what we called ourselves. But what if the watched started watching back? The dimensional rift chamber was a marvel of engineering. A circular platform ringed by humming emitters, the air shimmering like heat haze over asphalt. Technicians in crisp white suits swarmed around me, clipping sensors to my jumpsuit, calibrating vitals. Heart rate nominal, one announced. Chronovox synced, dimensional integrity at 98%. I stepped onto the pad, closed my eyes against the building static. The jump felt like plunging into ice water while being stretched thin, a vertigo of infinite falling, senses unraveling in the void between worlds. Then, solidity. My boots hit cracked pavement, and I gasped in the chill London fog. Earth 413 greeted me with gray skis and the acrid tang of ozone, like a thunderstorm that never broke. I materialized in what our maps pegged as an abandoned dockyard on the Thames South Bank, our standard low-profile entry to dodge locals. But as my vision cleared, the first red flag waved. A massive scar rent the earth nearby, a crater half a kilometer wide, edges too precise for nature's hand. Excavated deliberately, perhaps. No time to ponder. I shook off the disorientation, checked my gear. Civilian disguise sourced from pre-jump intel, faded jeans, a hooded jacket, boots that could pass for local wear. Day 1 blurred into reconnaissance. I set up in a derelict warehouse, its walls etched with graffiti that chilled me. Eyes on the sky and crude sketches of tentacled horrors. Venturing into central London, the city was a ghost of the one I knew. Iconic landmarks stood, but scarred, Westminster Abbey's facade patched with metallic reinforcements, The London Eye, a skeletal ruin twisted like it had been melted and reformed. And then the obelisks, towering behemoths some 30 meters high, forged from dark alloy and stone. Their designs were abstract nightmares, humanoid figures wrestling spectral waves, arms outstretched against invisible foes. I approached one in what should have been Trafalgar Square, now a fortified plaza ringed by barricades. Vines unnatural, pulsating with faint blue veins, crawled up its base. A plaque, weathered but readable, to the defiant of the first surge. 2022-023. We endure. The dates hit like a punch. In my world, 2020 was pandemics and politics, not surges, whatever that meant. As I moved deeper, more discrepancies surfaced. Spectrum detectors at every corner humming with low-frequency scans. Air purifiers whirring constantly. Pedestrians, gaunt, vigilant, wore wristbands that glowed with status indicators. Clear, compromised, immune. They spoke English with a clipped accent laced with unfamiliar slang. Wave watchers and host hunters. Eyes darted skyward every few minutes, an ingrained paranoia. I blended as best I could, eavesdropping in shadowed alleys. Whispers of specters, the overlords, the invaders. My blood ran cold. This wasn't divergence. This was apocalypse rewritten as history. The second day in London on Earth 413 dawned with a sky the color of ash, heavy with the threat of rain that never came. My temporary base in the dockyard warehouse was a cold, echoing shell, its walls papered with faded propaganda posters. Stay vigilant. The Specters watch. I sat cross-legged on the concrete floor, sorting through my field notes and the grainy images captured by my wrist-mounted scanner. The chronovox, my only way home, sat charging in a corner, its faint hum a reminder of my ticking clock. 48 hours left before Veil Nexus would initiate a retrieval protocol, assuming they could lock onto my signal. The city had revealed its scars yesterday, but today I needed answers. Why had Earth 413's history diverged so violently in 2020? What were these specters? The obelisks, the craters, the pervasive fear. It all pointed to a catastrophe my world had never known. I pulled on my disguise, tattered scarf, scuffed boots, a coat that smelled faintly of mildew, and ventured out, sticking to the labyrinth of backstreets to avoid the omnipresent scanners. London's pulse was wrong. The city moved with a tense rhythm, like a prey animal sensing a predator. I slipped into what my maps called Borough Market, now a fortified trading hub. Stalls bartered rationed goods, synthetic protein bars, water purifiers, and small devices labeled wave shields. The trader's eyes flicked upward every few seconds, a habit I'd noticed in everyone. I bought a stale bread roll with a few coins from my replicated local currency, ears straining for useful chatter. They hit Manchester again last night, a vendor muttered to a customer. Third surge this year, wave shields didn't hold. Lost my cousin to a host last month, the customer replied, voice low. Saw him in the red zone, eyes glowing blue, not human anymore. My pulse quickened. Hosts, red zones, I needed context. Moving deeper into the market, I spotted a public terminal, a cracked screen mounted on a rusted pole streaming state propaganda. I tapped into it, mimicking the casual swipes I'd seen locals use. The interface was clunky but familiar, a derivative of 21st century tech. Headlines scrolled. Sanctuary London enforces curfew after surge activity. Know your enemy. Spectre Host Identification Guide. I opened the guide. Images flashed, human figures with lifeless expressions, eyes emitting a faint blue glow, movements jerky like marionettes. The text described specters as non-organic entities, electromagnetic parasites that hijacked human bodies to interact with the physical world. They'd arrived in 2020, the first surge leveling cities with wave-based weapons that disrupted neural and electronic systems. Humanity fought back, but the second surge in 2025 crushed most resistance, leaving survivors in underground enclaves or shared zones under Spectre oversight. The parallels hit me like a freight train. In my world, H.G. Wells, The War of the Worlds, described Martian invaders with tripods and heat rays. Here, The Specters used autonomous drones and wave emitters, but the devastation echoed Wells' nightmare. Fiction in my reality was history in theirs. I needed to see more. Following my map to a district marked as Camden, I found what looked like a school, half rebuilt with mismatched materials. Through a grimy window, children sat in rows, their teacher pointing to a wall-mounted poster. It depicted a sleek, hovering drone, bulbous core, tendril-like appendages emitting pulses of blue energy. Bold text read, "Know the surge, stay shielded, survive." My breath caught. This wasn't a story. This was a survival manual. I stepped back, heart pounding, and collided with a woman carrying a satchel. "Entschuldigung, sorry," I stammered, catching myself. Her eyes narrowed, scanning me head to toe. "You all right, mate?" she asked, her London accent thick but wary. "You look like you've seen a specter." I forced a smile, mind racing. "Just tired, long night. Where you from?" "Sanctuary Camden, you." "South Bank," I lied, recalling my entry point. "Just passing through." Her gaze lingered, suspicious. "Curfew in 2 hours. Get underground before the drones sweep." She adjusted her wristband, a device pulsing with faint blue light, not unlike the clear indicators I'd seen. As she walked away, I noticed her glance skyward, a reflex of this world's paranoia. Back at the warehouse, I pored over my notes. The Specters had reshaped Earth 413, turning humanity into a subjugated labor force. Their technology, wave-based, electromagnetic, powered their drones and hosts. But why the dimensional culling? Why monitor the skis? I needed to report this to Veil Nexus. The scientific implications were staggering, an alien species with interdimensional ambitions. I reached for the chronovox. My fingers closed on empty air. Panic surged as I tore through my pack, overturning rations and gear. Nothing. It must have slipped out during my market run or at the school. Without it, I was stranded. No signal, no way home. A low hum broke my thoughts. Not the chronovox. A mechanical whirring, alien and sharp from outside. I crept to the warehouse's broken window, peering into the dusk. A drone hovered 20 meters above the street, its core glowing blue, a red scanning beam sweeping the ground. It was smaller than the poster's depiction, but unmistakably Spectre tech, sleek, tendril-like appendages twitching like a predator sniffing the air. The beam shifted, locking onto my window. A synthetic voice boomed, chillingly precise. "Anomaly detected. Dimensional signature confirmed." They knew. Somehow they knew. The drone descended, its tendrils coiling. I backed away, mind scrambling for options. No weapons, no extraction, no chronovox. The wall behind me exploded inward, dust and debris choking the air. 3 figures stormed through, humans, clad in sleek, dark armor, wielding rifles that hummed with energy. "Freeze!" barked the leader, a woman whose helmet retracted to reveal a scarred face and fierce brown eyes. Her nameplate read Morales J. "By order of humanity's bastion, you're under arrest." I raised my hands, heart hammering. "You don't understand, I'm not with them. I'm not a host." "Not my call," she snapped, weapon trained on me. "Your energy signature matches their jump tech. Either you're one of their spies or you're something else entirely. Move." Her team flanked me, cuffs snapping around my wrists. The drone outside whirred louder, its beam now white-hot. As they dragged me into the night, I caught a glimpse of the woman's wristband flashing immune. Whatever I'd stumbled into, Protocol Supreme was already in tatters. They marched me through ruined streets to a hidden hatch beneath a collapsed overpass. An elevator plunged us deep underground, the air growing cooler, heavier. When the doors opened, I stepped into a sprawling subterranean city, Sanctuary Camden. Tunnels bustled with thousands, illuminated by artificial daylight panels. Homes and shops were carved into rock, a testament to human resilience. The woman Morales led me to a sealed chamber. Inside, a man in a gray uniform sat at a steel table, his weathered face etched with scars and resolve. Metals gleamed on his chest, but his eyes held the weight of loss. "Commander Viktor Kuznetsov," he introduced himself, voice thick with a Russian accent. And you're going to tell me exactly who you are and how you triggered a Spectre alert. I swallowed hard, the cuffs biting into my wrists. My name is Elena Voss. I'm not from your world. I'm a scientist from another Earth, and I think your Specters are trying to invade my home. Kuznetsov's gaze didn't waver. Start talking, Dr. Voss, and pray I believe you. The interrogation room in Sanctuary Camden was a stark, sterile cube, its walls lined with sound-dampening panels that swallowed echoes. A single overhead light cast harsh shadows across Commander Viktor Kuznetsov's scarred face as he leaned forward, elbows on the steel table, studying me like a puzzle he wasn't sure he wanted to solve. My wrists ached from the cuffs, and the chronovox's absence gnawed at me, a lifeline lost in a world where every second felt like borrowed time. The air was thick with the scent of recycled oxygen and faint metallic tang, a reminder of the underground city's artificial existence. You expect me to believe you're from another Earth? Kuznetsov's Russian accent was clipped, his tone skeptical but not dismissive. A scientist dropped into our hell with no weapons, no backup, and a signature that lit up Spectre scanners like a flare. I don't expect belief, I said, meeting his gaze. I expect you to listen. Your Specters are building something, a dimensional gateway. If they finish it, they'll cross into my world. 8 billion people, no defenses, no clue what's coming. You fought them for decades. You know what that means. His eyes narrowed, but he didn't interrupt. I took a breath, choosing my words carefully. Veil Nexus trained us to guard operational secrets, but I was stranded, protocol supreme already shattered. I needed allies, not enemies. I work for a program called Veil Nexus, I began. We study parallel dimensions, worlds like yours, branching from ours at critical divergence points. My mission was observation only, to gather data on Earth 413. But your Specters detected my jump. They're not just watching your skis, they're scanning for dimensional breaches. My arrival was a signal, and now they're accelerating their plans. Kuznetsov leaned back, crossing his arms. And this gateway, you've seen it. Not yet, but your propaganda, your monuments, they scream of a war that mirrors a story from my world. H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. In my reality, it's fiction. Here, it's your history. The Specters, their drones, the surges, it's all real. And if they've cracked dimensional tech, they're not staying here. He stood abruptly, packing the small room. Our genocide, your bedtime story. His voice was bitter, and he rolled up a sleeve, revealing a forearm crisscrossed with burned scars. I was 12 when the first surge hit St. Petersburg. Watched my sister vaporized by a wave emitter. You can't imagine what that does to a child. I winced, the gulf between our worlds stark. I can't, but I know what's at stake if they reach my Earth. No resistance, no sanctuaries, just slaughter. He stopped packing, studying me. Prove it. Give me something concrete, something we can verify. I thought fast. Cultural markers were my best bet, something specific to my timeline. In my world, 2044 saw the first global AI summit in Berlin, chaired by Chancellor Lena Mueller. The United Nations reformed into the Global Concord, headquartered in Singapore. The President of the United States is Marcus Chen, elected in 2042. I can list his cabinet if you want. Kuznetsov scribbled notes on a battered tablet, his expression unreadable. Our last election was 2019. The Specters hit 6 months later. No Concord, no summits, just survival. He pressed a button, and the wall's embedded screen flickered to life, displaying a map of Earth 413. Red zones dominated Europe and Asia, with patches of yellow, shared zones where humans served as labor. Green zones, like Sanctuary Camden, were scarce, clinging to the Americas and parts of Africa. The Specters' keepers to some control the red zones, he said, pointing. Humans who enter don't come back. Yellow zones were allowed to exist, but only as their workforce. Green zones are ours, barely. Underground, hidden, always ready to run. How did you survive the surges? I asked. In Wells' novel, bacteria killed the invaders. A grim smile flickered across his face. Close. The first surge nearly wiped them out. Our diseases, our environment. They weren't ready, but they adapted. The second surge in 2025 came with shielded hosts and wave tech we couldn't counter. Now it's subjugation, not conquest. We mine their resources, build their machines, or die. He tapped the screen, zooming in on London. A pulsing red dot marked a structure in what used to be Hyde Park. This is the Obsidian Fortress, their main hub here. 3 days ago, our scouts detected a spike in electromagnetic activity. After your arrival, it tripled. They know you're here, Dr. Voss, and they're moving fast. My stomach dropped. My chronovox, it emits a dimensional signature if they've locked onto it. They have, a new voice interrupted. The door slid open, revealing the woman who'd arrested me, Morales. Her helmet was off now, revealing short-cropped black hair and a scar slashing across her cheek. We found your device near Camden School. It was broadcasting. She placed the chronovox on the table, its casing scuffed but intact. Relief flooded me, but Kuznetsov's hand blocked my reach. Not yet, he said. You've already stirred the hive. That fortress is now a dimensional research lab, and your signal gave them a blueprint. I clenched my fists, the weight of my mistake crushing. Then we need to act. If they complete that gateway, my world's done, and yours won't be far behind. Kuznetsov exchanged a glance with Morales, who nodded slightly. You're coming with us, he said, uncuffing me. But first, you meet the council. The elevator ride was longer this time, descending deeper into Sanctuary Camden's bedrock. When the doors opened, I stepped into a bustling underground metropolis, tunnels lined with hydroponic gardens, workshops humming with salvaged tech, children darting through crowds under artificial sunlight. The air buzzed with purpose, but the faces were gaunt, marked by decades of fear. Kuznetsov led me to a fortified chamber where 5 figures waited around a holographic table. Morales stood among them, alongside a wiry woman with sharp eyes and a tablet, Dr. Aisha Khan, their chief scientist. At the head was Colonel Sofia Almeida, a Portuguese woman with gray-streaked hair and a general's bearing. The others, 2 grizzled officers, watched me like hawks. This is Dr. Elena Voss, Kuznetsov announced. Dimensional traveler. She claims the Specters are targeting her world next. Almeida's gaze was piercing. Explain yourself, every detail. For an hour I laid it all bare, Veil Nexus, dimensional theory, the chronovox's mechanics. I sketched its quantum core on a tablet, explaining how it bridged realities. Aisha's eyes lit up, her fingers tracing my diagrams. This isn't far from what we've reverse-engineered from Spectre tech, she said, her British Pakistani accent sharp with excitement. Their wave emitters use similar principles. We've cracked some, but their systems self-destruct if we push too far. 3 days ago. Almeida cut in. Our sensors picked up a new energy signature at the Obsidian Fortress. Post your arrival, it's gone critical. They're building something, and you're the catalyst. Guilt twisted in my chest. I didn't mean to. Intentions don't matter, Morales snapped. Results do. Your device gave them a map to your world. Then let me help fix it, I said. I can analyze their tech, find a way to shut it down. Almeida leaned forward. You're suggesting we trust you, a stranger who's already compromised us. I'm suggesting we don't have a choice, I shot back. If they cross dimensions, no sanctuary will save you. A tense silence followed. Aisha broke it. She's right. Their hub's activity suggests a gateway near completion. If we strike now, we might stop it. And if we fail, one of the officers growled. Then we're no worse off than we are now, Kuznetsov said. But if she's telling the truth, we save 2 worlds. Almeida studied me, then nodded. You'll join a strike team. Dr. Khan, you'll work with Voss to sabotage their tech. Kuznetsov, Morales, you'll lead the operation. We hit the fortress at dawn. As the council dispersed, Morales lingered, her expression hard but softening. I don't trust you yet, Voss, but if you're half as smart as you seem, don't screw this up. I won't, I promised, though doubt gnawed at me. The chronovox sat heavy in my pocket, its power cell at 22%, nowhere near enough for a jump. I was all in, whether I liked it or not. That night, in a sparse bunk assigned to me, Aisha visited, carrying a set of dark armor. "Standard issue for surface ops," she said. "Blocks most Spectre scans, resists low-level wave pulses." She hesitated, then sat beside me. "Your world, what's it like? Is it free?" I thought of Berlin's gleaming skyline, the flaws of my Earth, climate crises, political gridlock, but nothing like this. "It's not perfect, but we're not hiding underground, praying drones don't find us." Her eyes softened, distant. "I was born in sanctuary London, never seen the surface without a suit. Sometimes I dream of open fields, no drones, no surges, just sky." I touched her arm, her longing piercing me. "I can't promise you'll see it, but I'll fight to give you a chance." She nodded, a faint smile breaking through. "Tomorrow's going to be hell, get some rest." As she left, I checked the chronovox again. 25%. Time was running out, and the obsidian fortress loomed like a guillotine. I lay back, Wells' novel haunting my thoughts. In his story, invaders fell to Earth's simplest weapon, biology. Here, the Specters had overcome that. But something told me there was a key in this world's reality, a weakness we could exploit. I just had to find it before the Specters found my Earth. Dawn broke over Sanctuary Camden with a muted glow, the artificial sunlight panels flickering to life across the underground city. The air buzzed with tension as our strike team gathered in a fortified briefing room, the holographic map of the obsidian fortress poising before us. 6 of us stood ready. Commander Viktor Kuznetsov, his weathered face set in grim determination. Lieutenant Javier Morales, the scarred soldier who'd arrested me, now checking his rifle with practiced precision. Dr. Aisha Khan, clutching a tablet loaded with Spectre tech schematics. Sergeant Alina Petrova and Corporal Liam O'Connor, 2 resistance fighters whose silent nods spoke of battles fought and lost. And me, Dr. Alina Voss, the outsider with everything to prove. Colonel Sofia Almeida stood at the head, her voice steady as she outlined the plan. "The Obsidian Fortress is their nerve center in London," Almeida said, pointing to the hologram's glowing dome, surrounded by sleek, tendril-like drones. "You'll enter through a maintenance tunnel here, east side. Intel suggests minimal Spectre presence, automated defenses mostly. Wave sensors, neural disruptors, possibly sonic traps. Your suits should counter most of it." "What's the extraction plan?" Morales asked, his Spanish accent sharp with skepticism. Almeida's pause was heavy. "The tunnel's your best shot out, but the mission comes first. If that gateway activates, it's not just our world at stake, it's hers." She nodded at me. I felt the weight of their stares. My chronovox, now at 38% power, sat heavy in my armored vest. Not enough for a jump, not yet. I met Kuznetsov's gaze. "Ready as I'll ever be." He grunted, slinging his rifle. "Let's move." We ascended through a maze of claustrophobic tunnels, the air growing warmer as we neared the surface. The final hatch opened into a derelict underground station, its tiled walls cracked and covered in bioluminescent moss Spectre flora. Aisha had called it, a sign of their slow terraforming. London above was a graveyard of civilization. Skyscrapers leaned like broken teeth, their glass facades shattered. Streets buckled under alien vegetation, poolsing with unnatural hues of purple and black. The air carried a static charge, prickling my skin even through the suit. Morales took point, his movements fluid and silent, scanning for drones. We moved in a tight formation, hugging ruins to avoid aerial sweeps. Twice, we froze as Spectre drones hummed overhead, their red scanning beams slicing through the fog. My heart pounded, but the suit's shielding held, masking our biosignatures. After 20 minutes of tense traversal, the Obsidian Fortress loomed into view, a monolithic dome of black alloy, its surface rippling with faint energy pulses. Surrounding it were drones, not the tripods of Wells' novel but hovering spheres, each bristling with tendril-like appendages that twitched like living things. Their cores glowed blue, wave emitters humming ominously. Autonomous units, Kuznetsov whispered, his breath visible in the chill. The Specters stay inside or in their ships. Those drones are their eyes and hands. How do we get past them? I asked, my voice low. Petrova, a wiry Russian with a shaved head, pulled a device from her pack, a compact sphere with a blinking green light. EMP pulse, short range, but it'll fry their sensors for 30 seconds. Morales nodded. Hit it. Petrova lobbed the device toward the nearest drone cluster. A faint crackle erupted, and the machine spasmed, their tendrils flailing as their cores flickered. Now, Kuznetsov hissed. We sprinted across the open ground, dodging gnarled Spectre flora. O'Connor reached the maintenance hatch first, slapping a decryption tool onto its lock. Sparks flew, and the panel slid open with a groan. We piled inside just as the drone's sensors blinked back to life, their beams sweeping dangerously close. The fortress's interior was alien in every sense. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent veins, casting an eerie glow. Tubular conduits ran along the ceiling, carrying what looked like liquid mercury. The air was thick, charged with static that made my hair stand on end despite the suit. Aisha's scanner beeped softly, mapping heat signatures. Central chambers 2 levels down, she whispered. Stay sharp. We moved through corridors that felt alive, their surfaces shifting subtly underfoot. Small apertures in the walls opened as we passed, emitting brief scanning pulses before snapping shut. They know we're here, Aisha said, her voice tight. Then we move faster, Kuznetsov replied, picking up the pace. A vertical shaft opened ahead, a spiraling ramp descending into darkness. As we started down, a strange pressure built in my skull, a buzzing that scrambled my thoughts like static in my brain. Do you feel that? I gasped, gripping the ramp's edge. Aisha nodded, wincing. Neural countermeasures. Specters use them to disorient, focus on something solid, a memory, a formula. I pictured my lab in Munich, the hum of quantum computers, my brother's goofy grin over coffee. The pressure eased but didn't vanish. We reached the chamber and my breath caught. It was a cathedral of alien tech, a massive energy field, blue and turbulent, pulsed between towering pylons. The dimensional gateway. Around it, cylindrical tanks held human forms, pale, translucent, floating in murky fluid, their eyes closed like sleepers in a nightmare. Hosts, Morales spat, his grip tightening on his rifle. They're prepping them for crossing. I tore my gaze away, focusing on the control panels ringing the gateway. The symbols were incomprehensible, but the energy signatures were familiar from Veil Nexus simulations. I need access to their systems, I told Aisha. If we can overload the dimensional frequency, we can collapse the gateway. She nodded, leading me to a console. Cover us, she told the others. Kuznetsov, Morales, Petrova, and O'Connor fanned out, planting explosives at structural points while scanning the chamber's entrances. Aisha's fingers danced over the alien interface. Their tech, built on stolen human designs, pre-surge quantum processors. I can crack it. For 10 agonizing minutes we worked, my theoretical knowledge meshing with her practical expertise. The others moved silently, setting charges, their eyes darting to the shadows. Got it, Aisha said finally. Calibration protocols accessed. They've locked onto your Earth's coordinates, must have pulled it from your chronovox's signature. Can we reverse it? I asked, studying the readouts. Not just reverse, overload. I pointed to 2 energy conduits on the display. Invert the polarity here and spike the power. It'll cascade through their network, fry every connected system. Her eyes widened. That could cripple their entire grid, fortresses, drones, everything. Before I could respond, an alarm blared, red light flooding the chamber. Company, O'Connor shouted from his post. A doorway slid open, revealing a Spectre host. Tall, gaunt, encased in gleaming black armor, its faceless head a smooth, reflective surface. No eyes, just a void where a face should be. That's not the real thing, Aisha whispered, just the puppet. The host raised an arm, energy crackling at its tip. Petrova fired first, her round sparking uselessly off its armor. The host retaliated, a wave pulse slamming her against a pylon. She crumpled, groaning. Chaos erupted as more hosts poured in, their movements unnaturally fluid. Morales and O'Connor returned fire, their energy rifles scorching the air. "Keep working," Kuznetsov roared, diving behind a console. Aisha and I hunched over the controls, my hands shaking as I input the overload sequence. The gateway's energy field flickered, turning a sickly purple. "It's working," I said, hope surging. "The feedback's building." A scream cut through the gunfire. O'Connor was down, a smoking hole in his chest. Morales cursed, dragging him behind cover. Petrova staggered to her feet, blood trickling from her temple, and joined the fight. The hosts advanced, their wave emitters humming with lethal intent. "We're out of time," Kuznetsov shouted, firing at a host closing on us. "How long?" 90 seconds, Aisha replied, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Once the cascade starts, we've got 3 minutes to clear the blast radius." "Not enough," Morales growled, swapping out his rifle's power cell. "Set the explosives for remote. We're leaving." I shook my head. "If we don't finish this, they'll rebuild. This is our shot." A host rounded our console, its arm raised. Kuznetsov tackled it, unloading his rifle into its head at point-blank range. The reflective surface shattered, revealing writhing metallic tendrils pulsing with blue energy. The host collapsed, but the tendrils kept moving, sparking erratically. "What the hell?" I gasped. "The real Spectre," Aisha said, her eyes wide. "The electromagnetic parasite." As Kuznetsov reloaded, I noticed something odd. The tendrils recoiled from a puddle of liquid on the floor, leaking from a damaged conduit. Not water, brine, salty and pungent, likely from a cooling system tied to London's coastal grid. A fragment of Wells' novel flashed in my mind. The Martians' downfall, their vulnerability to Earth's biology. Not bacteria here, but something simpler. "Salt," I whispered, then louder. "It's the salt." "What?" Kuznetsov shouted over the gunfire. "Their electromagnetic matrix. It's disrupted by saline. The brine's short-circuiting them." Aisha's face lit up. "The fortress's fire suppression system uses seawater from the Thames estuary, high salinity." She sprinted to a wall panel, ripping it open to reveal a manual override. She yanked the lever and jets of briny water sprayed across the chamber. The effect was immediate. Hosts spasmed where the mist hit, their armor flickering, tendrils shriveling. One collapsed entirely, its core sparking and dying. "Keep them back," I yelled, returning to the console. 30 seconds. Kuznetsov and Morales grabbed more suppression nozzles, creating a barrier of saline spray. The hosts retreated, their movements jerky, as if the salt burned their very essence. The gateway's energy field flared red, the pylons vibrating with a high-pitched whine. "It's ready," I shouted. "When I hit this, we've got 2 minutes 40 to run." "Do it," Kuznetsov ordered. I slammed the command key. The gateway roared, its field collapsing inward, energy crackling like a dying star. The chamber shook, conduits sparking. "Go," I yelled. Kuznetsov hoisted Petrova, who was barely conscious, while Aisha grabbed her tablet. Morales led the charge, spraying saline to clear a path. We retraced our steps through the fortress, alarms screaming, walls pulsing erratically. The air grew hotter, the structure destabilizing. We burst into daylight just as the dome began to fracture, cracks spiderwebbing across its surface. Drones outside twitched and fell, their cores dark as the cascade fried their systems. "Keep moving," Morales shouted. We sprinted through the ruins, the ground trembling beneath us. I checked the chronovox, 62%. Close, but not enough. Behind us, the fortress imploded in a shockwave of electromagnetic energy, harmless to us but devastating to Spectre tech. In the distance, other structures flickered and died, their lights snuffed out. We collapsed in a ruined park, gasping. Kuznetsov's comm crackled. "Commander, report." Almeida's voice was urgent. Sensors show Spectre systems failing across the continent. What happened? Mission accomplished, Kuznetsov panted, and we found their weakness, saltwater. The park where we collapsed was a graveyard of twisted metal and alien flora, the air thick with the ozone tang of fried Spectre technology. The obsidian fortress was gone, reduced to a smoldering crater, its collapse sending ripples through London's skyline. Drones littered the ground like fallen wasps, their tendrils limp, cores dark. My chest heaved as I caught my breath, the chronovox's weight in my vest a constant reminder of my narrowing window to return home. Its power cell blinked at 68%, still short of the 75% needed for a stable jump. Around me, the team was battered but alive, save for O'Connor, whose loss hung heavy in the silence. Petrova leaned against a shattered bench, blood crusted on her temple, while Morales checked her vitals with a grim focus. Aisha clutched her tablet, eyes scanning the horizon where other Spectre structures flickered and died. Kuznetsov stood apart, his comm crackling with reports from Sanctuary Camden. "Commander, repeat that," he said, voice rough with exhaustion. Almeida's voice came through, sharp with disbelief. "Spectre activity is dropping worldwide. Red zones are going dark, Berlin, Shanghai, Moscow. Resistance cells report drones falling from the sky. What did you do?" Kuznetsov glanced at me, a rare glint of respect in his eyes. "We hit their heart, Colonel. Voss found their weakness, saltwater, disrupts their electromagnetic core. The fortress's collapse triggered a cascade, frying their network." "Saltwater," Almeida's tone was incredulous. "Confirm that." "It's true," Aisha cut in, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "The fortress's suppression system used Thames estuary brine. When we sprayed it, the hosts short-circuited. Their tech couldn't handle it." A long pause, then Almeida's voice softened. "You've given us a weapon, Commander. Cells are mobilizing now. Coastal units are weaponizing seawater. Keepers are in retreat. Get back to Sanctuary Camden for debrief." "Understood," Kuznetsov said, clipping the comm to his belt. He turned to us. "We're not done yet. We need to secure the city, ensure the Spectres don't regroup." I nodded, but my mind was racing. The chronovox was charging too slowly, and every hour I stayed increased the risk of Veil Nexus writing me off as lost. But I couldn't leave, not yet. The data I'd gathered, the proof of the Spectre's vulnerability, had to reach my world. If they ever rebuilt, my Earth would be defenseless. Morales helped Petrova to her feet, his scarred face softening as he checked her pulse. "She'll live, but we need a med-evac." He glanced at me, his earlier hostility replaced by grudging respect. "You pulled through, Voss. Didn't think you had it in you." "Don't get sentimental," I said, forcing a smile. "We're not out of this yet." Aisha approached, her tablet glowing with intercepted Spectre signals. "Their network in chaos, but there's still activity in the yellow zones. They're trying to reroute power to secondary hubs." "Then we keep hitting them," Kuznetsov said. "Saltwater's our edge. We'll coordinate with other sanctuaries, flood their systems." Over the next 3 days, Sanctuary Camden became a war room. Resistance cells across the globe launched attacks, using everything from fire hoses to modified crop sprayers filled with seawater. Reports flooded in. Tokyo's red zone fell when rebels flooded a Spectre hub with brine from the Pacific. New York's resistance rigged saltwater bombs, collapsing drone fleets. The Specters, invincible for decades, crumbled under the weight of Earth's most abundant resource. Aisha's theory was chillingly accurate. Their terraforming had aimed to desalinate Earth's oceans, neutralizing their greatest weakness. Our discovery had caught them unprepared. I worked alongside Aisha in Sanctuary's tech labs, analyzing salvaged Spectre components. The host's biology, or lack thereof, was unlike anything I'd studied. The electromagnetic parasites lived within metallic tendrils, using human bodies as disposable shells. Seawater disrupted their energy matrix, causing cascading failures. "It's like they're allergic to Earth itself," Aisha mused, peering through a microscope at a shriveled tendril sample. No wonder they've been altering the atmosphere. We need to document everything, I said, downloading data onto a rugged drive. My world has to know what's coming. She looked at me, her eyes shadowed with exhaustion. You think they'll believe you? A scientist from another dimension, warning about alien parasites. They'll have to, I said, patting the drive. This is proof. On the 5th day, my chronovox hit 100%. I stood in Sanctuary's command center, facing Kuznetsov, Aisha, Morales, and Almeida. The underground city hummed with newfound hope. Children played in the tunnels, their laughter a stark contrast to the fear I'd seen days ago. Outside, resistance teams were dismantling fallen drones, reclaiming streets for the first time in decades. We owe you, Dr. Voss, Almeida said, her handshake firm. You've given us a chance to rebuild. I just hope my world never faces this, I replied, my throat tight. But if it does, we'll be ready. Aisha hugged me, her voice soft. Find that open sky for me, Alina. Tell me it's real. I will, I promised, my chest aching. You'll see it too, you're free now. Morales handed me a sealed vial, murky seawater from the Thames. For your scientists, he said gruffly, just in case. Aisha says it's got unique saline properties. Might be the bacteria or something else. Thank you, I said, pocketing it beside the data drive. His slip, calling Aisha by another name, hinted at a deeper loss, but I didn't press. Kuznetsov walked me to the surface, a rare breach of Sanctuary's protocols. London above was still a ruin, but signs of life emerged, humans scavenging drone parts, planting real crops in cleared patches. What will you tell your people? He asked, his breath misting in the cool air. The truth, I said, that I found a world where fiction became reality and humanity fought back with salt and grit. They might not believe me, but I've got evidence. He chuckled, a dry sound. They'll think you're mad. Probably, I admitted, smiling, but I'll make them listen. We reached the jump point, a cracked concrete slab where I'd first arrived. Kuznetsov handed me a small metal case. More seawater samples, different sources, Atlantic, North Sea, just in case your world's chemistry differs. I nodded, clipping it to my vest. Good luck, Commander, keep fighting. You too, Dr. Voss, he saluted, sharp and formal, and thank you. I stepped onto the slab, activating the chronovox. The familiar electric hum enveloped me, the world blurring into shimmering blue. For a moment I hung in the void, suspended between realities, the weight of Earth 413 struggle etched into my soul. Then, solid ground. The sterile white walls of Veil Nexus's retrieval chamber snapped into focus, alarms blaring as technicians swarmed. Voss, Director Reinhardt pushed through, his face a mix of relief and fury. 5 days overdue. Where the hell have you been? I handed him the data drive and seawater samples, exhaustion crashing over me. Sir, you wouldn't believe me if I told you, but we need to talk about War of the Worlds. It's not fiction anymore. As medics ushered me to decontamination, I thought of Aisha's dream of open skis, Morales' sacrifice, Kuznetsov's scars. Earth 413 had won its freedom, but the multiverse was vast and the Specters' knowledge of dimensional travel lingered. My world had to prepare, because if they came, we'd need more than salt to survive.